A study conducted by researchers at the University of Rochester have found that for both Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump, the largest group of unfollowers is that of young women with a strong social media presence. The preliminary research emphasizes that while Clinton and Trump might technically be politicians, on Twitter, they're just brands like any other. So this study was covered between September 2015 and March of this year, 2016. It does still have to go through peer review, just so you know, but it basically was investigating who followed both Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump on Twitter and then later unfollowed them. So what they did is at first they categorized the users on Twitter by gender and age, looking at their profile pictures or something like that. And then they looked at the number of followers each of the users had to determine what their social media capital was, or how high their capital was in that regard. So as it was found, both Trump and Clinton had the largest group of unfollowers within this young woman category. So it actually turned out that for Trump, the middle-aged category between ages 27 and 42 with a high social capital, they were the most likely to leave. And of course, even just among female voters, Trump has a 73% dislikability or unlikability there. But it turns out that Hillary Clinton was actually hit more so by the unfollowing of women. So what I would assume is perhaps a lot of women were very supportive of her at first, but then later, and then especially as Bernie Sanders gained a lot of popularity, she sort of lost them. So the likelihood of people unfollowing her are women between the ages of 12 and 26, with also a large social media following. So, I mean, it's interesting. I'm curious what you have to say, Elliot, in terms of what is the weight that social media holds with regards to politicians.
Yeah, I think, well, listen, it's critical. And I think she has, out of the two of them, if we're just talking about those two, she has struggled with it more than Trump has. Trump has been fairly adroit at utilizing and harnessing the power of social media. And starts his own, a variety of different memes, hashtags, what have you, and has used that, as I said, very, very effectively, together with the traditional, television presence that he's had. It amounts to something like $2 billion worth of free publicity. So, and arguably, that's really what's fueled his campaign. So he's done very, very well there. It's no surprise to me that he's managed to alienate females and women and female followers. Whether that translates into voters or not, for either of them, I don't know. On her side, I think, again, it's no secret that she's found it problematic to connect, particularly with women, the kind of arrogant statements that she was making at certain points during the campaign, that there's a special, Madeleine Albright echoing those comments, saying there's a special place in hell for women that don't vote for other women. Right. Things like that just alienated, in particular, that younger demographic that you alluded to, that millennial. They migrated, arguably migrating across towards Bernie, or they were in both camps. They were following both candidates and then just simply switched off the feed from Clinton. Right. Just reminding viewers as well that Clinton did also engage, her super PAC engaged and has spent just very recently $1 million on paid trolls. So such as the lack of groundswell support within the social media campaign that she has, Facebook being one of them, but we're talking about specifically about Twitter. But she's spent over $1 million on hiring professional social media individuals to specifically and deliberately go after Bernie Sanders and the so-called the Bernie Bros, which
well, and I think that particular stunt, I think it backfires a little bit, because that's been so highly publicized, the fact that she's done that. And I think if you're trying to win over the millennial vote or younger voters by trolling, I mean, it's just, I don't think
well,
that's
and in a calculating way. It's one thing, Bernie Sanders has distanced himself from the Bernie Bros, but that is coming from people who rightly or wrongly feel passionately about it. And I have to say, some of the comments are, regardless of the place they're coming from, are inappropriate. But that was something that wasn't sanctioned by his campaign, and it was just a groundswell of popular support, which is the essence, has an authenticity, and it's the essence of social media. To then go and have a systematic campaign and a systematic strategy where you then pay over $1 million to engage professionals to do your work for you indicates the disparity between the two, and that lack of authenticity that she is seeking to combat, that the fact that she would say anything, you play right into that. that, because as soon as that gets revealed, it demonstrates the point that you're trying to dismantle.
Exactly. So another thing to note is, as we've said before, generally the people that are unfollowing Hillary Clinton, they're moving to Bernie Sanders, whereas with Trump, they're not necessarily unfollowing him and then joining the ranks of Kasich and Cruz. They're in fact perhaps going to a Democratic candidate as well. It's unspecified whether they are going specifically to Bernie or if they're going to Hillary. But so Jaibu Luo, who's the professor supervising this research, he wrote this in an email. He says, given the unfollowing patterns uncovered in our paper, we believe Mr. Trump, once he has clinched the nomination, must give his particular attention to win over and keep the middle-aged group, while Secretary Clinton must work hard to win over younger voters in order to do well in the general election. It's true that not all following translates into strong preferences. On the other hand, unfollowing clearly indicates disappointment, disagreement, and disapproval. So yes, we were kind of saying we're not sure how this translates into votes per se, but I think social media has gained such a profound importance when it comes to just popularity and knowability, likability as well. So this research is preliminary. They do want to go further and kind of discuss, are some of these disparaging comments, do they make any kind of difference? For example, when Trump said that Hillary was playing the woman card, is that something that maybe pushed people away? In a recent survey by both Fractal and BuzzStream, they surveyed over 900 social media users, trying to figure out what is the pattern of people following and unfollowing. Sometimes it's as arbitrary as just, it's repetitive or they see too much of it. Sometimes they just want to remove clutter. Very rarely are they just offended by a brand's activities. And in fact, the least common reason was because they found someone they like to follow, which I find interesting, because it'd be one thing if they were like, oh, I actually prefer this candidate. So
right.
we'll see how this plays out. In the meantime, I guess we're going to continue playing Unfollow the Leader.